Hey guys, Jimmy here, and today we are going to be looking at the entire walkthrough of the Brayflox Longstop dungeon. And this dungeon is accessible when you are level 32 and sync caps off at level 34. It can be accessed through the duty finder, or you could access it outside on the map. I believe it's near the Quarry Mill map. And when you enter the dungeon, of course, you have some mobs to take care of. The types of mobs that you will see here are the Galagos, I think that's what they named them here. And the birds are called the Colvies, and there's some vine guys over back there. You'll see some drakes, some corals, and other types of mobs that we'll see along the way. While we're fighting this group of mobs here, I'll go over the group dynamic. It is going to be the same for all the other dungeons that you probably have done up to this point. You want your tank to go in first, establish the aggro or hate, and then at that time, of course, you want your healer to heal and DPS to DPS the mob that the tank has marked. Now, marking is an important tool, or a useful tool, I could say, for the tank to have, just so that you could have your DPS focusing on the same mob that you're focusing at, so that they're not pulling aggro on the other mobs and having you waste more TP than necessary. You're going to circle around the back part of that, and once you defeat that group of mobs, you'll just go a little bit north, and you're going to turn to the left. There you will see a little goblin there, and he'll give you a key. Once you obtain the key, you want to head back down the slope and go directly across. And there you'll have another group of mobs that you'll have to defeat, and towards the left you'll use the key and enter your first, or encounter your first boss. And I guess while we're fighting these mobs here, I'll go over a little bit more about the group dynamic. If you haven't noticed already, there is actually something called an aggro bar. If you select your mob or your intended mob, then on the left hand side where your group is all listed, there will be a small bar that is underneath your icon. That bar indicates how much aggro you have on that particular mob. Of course, you want your tank's aggro mob to be entirely full, and of course you want yours to be lower than the tank's. So this is a good way for you to measure if you're going to be taking aggro or hate from the mob, and whether you should pull back or not, so that your tank could keep that aggro and you won't be, potentially dying or something like that. For healers, this is a little bit difficult because you usually don't target the mob. You actually probably just scroll through your party list and just toss out heals. In this case, you want to be very careful of what kind of heals that you give off. You probably want to start with your lowest heals as much as possible and cycle through your party. Only in emergency cases should you be using, your group AoE heal or your higher heals. So there you see, we use the key right there that we got from the goblin, which opens the door, and you'll encounter the first boss. This boss has adds that will spawn periodically. You'll start off with 3 in the beginning, hence you want your DPS to focus down the adds as fast as possible and then return back to the boss. The tank wants to be focused on the boss, yet use any kind of aggro skills to get the attention of the adds, so that your DPS can pluck off the ones that they want. At the same time, of course, the healer will heal. Just keep up everyone. Probably the best positioning for this boss is that your tank to be towards the very left, near the door where you're going to exit from, not where you entered from. So the door to the left on my screen right there, because that's potentially where the adds will spawn. And so if the tank is over there, he'll get the initial hate for being the closest one, and then if he uses his aggro skills or AoE enmity skills, then he will claim that aggro before it gets to the healer or to the other DPS. And once the adds spawn, of course, you want your DPS to change or shift focus from the boss to the adds to burn them down, and then return back to the boss. It's really important that your group burns down these adds as soon as possible, or just don't take too long with them, because adds will continually spawn. They're on a timer, So regardless of whether you defeated the previous group of mobs or not, they'll just continue coming out. Hence, if your DPS is low, or if you're just not focusing on the mobs at all, then you'll be overrun with mobs, and you know, by that time, you know, mistakes will happen and your party will wipe. So just be very careful of that. So that's really about it for this boss. He just kind of has his ad spawns. As far as for his attacks, he doesn't really do any AoE attacks that will affect parties that are standing behind him. You just kind of have to watch his conus move, where he puts down you know, a dot in front, and of course, you know, it'll be indicated by that red Y indicator, so you want to be out of that red zone. And from there, it's pretty much a rinse and repeat until the boss dies. And that's it for our first boss. So all of the loots, I will go ahead and post a picture on my blog. And the link will be left in the description bar below. So you can go and check out all the loots that dropped in this dungeon. And I'll do that for all the other dungeons that I'll post from this point on. So you could check out or see if you wanted a particular one, then you know where to get it from. Once you defeat this boss, you'll go up that ramp, and here is a very important part. This part is kind of like on a timer, so you have to kill these ads before the goblins die. And of course, if you save the goblin, a treasure coffer will drop. So that's pretty much why you want to save these goblins. So for here, you kind of want to work fast because there's a couple of locations that have these goblins. I believe there's 3 other locations besides this goblin that we just saw. So once those groups of mobs are defeated, you're actually going to go down the path where you'll meet another group of mobs that you'll have to defeat before you can go help the goblins. Which, there they are right there. You have 1 Drake kind of looking guy and 2 Dragonfly looking guys. And once you defeat the last mob from there, you want to take a left turn down the ramp where you'll encounter your second goblin. At that time, you want to defeat those ads around there before the goblin dies, so you could go ahead and get that second coffer. So once you get that coffer, you want to turn directly around and go up the ramp where you'll encounter your third goblin, and you'll do the same exact thing. And once you get that coffer, you want to turn directly around and go down the ramp across the bridge, and you'll meet another ramp where you'll go up and see your fourth and last goblin that you'll have to save. Once you get that coffer, directly underneath that you're going to see your second boss. So for this boss, how it works, that there's, the Inferno Drake right there in front of you, the main mob or boss. At a later time, a second ad will come out close to the door where I'm at right now. So of course you don't want to be standing there. A goblin will come out as well, and so that ad is going to be chasing the goblin. You want to save the goblin by killing the ad before it kills the goblin. So there you go, we have the second guy that just came out. And there's the goblin. So you want to kill the ad, and he's just going to be chasing the goblin the entire time. So you want to kill him before the goblin gets hurt. And after the ad dies, you want to focus back on the main boss. Brayflox, the goblin, is going to be helping you defeat your boss. However, for you guys that are tanking, you want to be aware that Brayflox may take aggro or hate from you. So you want to keep your hate in rotation just so that you ensure that that doesn't happen, several times, because you don't want your goblin to die. And that was your second boss. Easy peasy, right? Probably not, but alright, so after you defeat the Drake, you want to continue heading down the path where you'll come into the swampy area. You want to hug the, I guess you would want to say, the north wall. or on the map I think it looks a little bit different, but you want to hug the area past the bridge where this huge vine will be, so just be around there. And the reason for that is that you want to kill ads along this route over here towards, you know, the wall, because there will be little inlets on the left hand side where there will be extra coffers for you to get, so you want to get those additional guys. And here is the first inlet or cove that you'll see. There's one mob here where you want the tank to tank, just to easy, you know, just defeat it. And then right behind there you see the coffer. And continuing along that route, you'll see your second inlet right there, but of course it's being blocked by a couple of mobs. Just take care of those mobs and then you can go and get that second coffer. But this time, instead of having one mob, you'll have to take care of two before you could go ahead and get that chest. Once you get that coffer, you want to head out of the inlet and still hug the left area where you'll meet a dead end. It's kind of like around there, but you'll go across these rocks, and so you want to be as close to the rocks as possible. And when you meet that vine right there, you want to take care of the ads in that little patch of land. And here you'll encounter your third boss. Now this boss has a little bit of a mechanic to it. Of course you want your tank to engage, establish aggro, and then your DPS could start DPSing, healer start healing. The only thing that you have to really watch out for in this boss fight is that the boss will put your party in bubbles. You want to break your party member out by defeating the bubble. And the bubble's name, I believe, in here it's called Query Bubble or Curie Bubble. Queer bubble. Whatever you want to call it, but just defeat it. And if you don't, you know, it'll put dots on them and it'll hurt them. So you want to get them out or break them out as soon as possible. Also, at this fight, you want to save your limit breaker because this boss incidentally will meet a tragic end that you'll see in a bit. And if you look towards our far left, you will actually see that our archer is in one of those query bubbles. She's not able to break herself out because she can't damage the bubble by herself, so you have to have other party members do it for you. And here I'm in a bubble now, so you have all those dots on you. Okay, so our third boss just got squished by our last boss there, and he's going to be chasing you guys around for a little bit, so just keep on doing damage to him and try not to die. Avoid the dragon's breath. It shows as a red indicator, but since there's water on top, you can't really see it, so just be careful. At this time, you still want to save your limit breaker because the dragon will eventually fly away, so you don't want to waste your limit breaker on that. So there you go, he's going away. Bye bye, gone. And then you should be getting your chest. So once you go up that little alley there, you'll go into this kind of rocky terrain now. The terrain has changed a little bit and you'll encounter some more mobs, of course. Just defeat those and just continue on your path. When you continue down your path, there'll be a little split part. You want to head to the left and down the ramp where you'll meet these mobs right here. Take care of these mobs, and then on the very bottom, if you see right there on the right, you'll see a cat looking kind of mob. Behind that cat looking mob, there'll actually be another coffer for you to get. Once you get that chest, you want to backtrack your way up the ramp and go towards the opposite side of where you turned left from. Just continue down the path and you will enter the last boss room. This boss has a couple of mechanics that you have to watch out for, and if you are able to distinguish these slight movements and mechanics, then this boss will be easy peasy. It's very important for the tank to be very active in this fight because the boss does a move called Dragon's Breath, where it is a linear attack where it'll be indicated by the huge red indicator. You want to avoid that attack at all costs because it does a lot of damage. The other thing that Alistar does is that he will de-aggro from the tank just to do an attack on someone else. And the attack that he does is that he will put a poison pool around a certain person. So when the boss is not looking at the tank anymore and he's looking somewhere else, that is your cue to start moving and start moving away, because if you're standing in that pool, it will do a constant poison dot on you, and that dot will last for a while even though you are out of the pool. And there we see that Alistar has turned around and has focused on our healer. Our healer is running away, and you see that pool of green poison. So for us it is a poison dot. However, if Alistar is standing within that poison, he will actually get healed. So tanks, you want to make sure that Alistar is not standing in that poison pool and move him away. And if he is starting to get healed, it will actually show a little sign on your screen saying that he's starting to regenerate health. So just be aware of that and be aware of your location for you tanks. Another key thing about Dragon's Breath is that don't panic. You know, when you're seeing a big attack, you want to run away from it. So you just kind of run back, but that's essentially what you don't want to do. You want to run very, very much perpendicular to where the line is. So you want to go either left, right, or just go straight on head and just go underneath him and, you know, avoid that attack. Because if you go back, then you're definitely going to be within that range of the Dragon's Breath. You're not going to get out of that linear range in time. And of course, if you have your limit breakers up, definitely use that limit breaker to your advantage. As for locationing, I would suggest that the boss be kept in the middle, just so that when he's doing Dragon's Breath, then the tank has multiple areas where he could run to and avoid the range of the Dragon's Breath. And as far as for other party members, to be around the boss on the outermost ring as possible. That way when the boss is using his poison pool, then, you know, it'll be the outer ring of the area rather than, you know, if it be right behind him and then he steps in it and then he's regenerating health the entire time. But keep in mind that that is just an action plan of what you want to aim for. However, of course, you know, things will happen and, you know, aggro will be taken, or the tank will miss one of those Dragon's Breath and die and stuff, and then you'll have to recover. So you'll just have to work with what you got, you know. So try to do the best you can. Never give up and just continue trying to push, because, you know, that's what your healers have res for, and to get your party members up to hopefully keep you going. Remember to use pots, and of course use your buffs to keep in rotation so that, you know, you could take less damage, and hopefully, you know, one of those buffs will help you win, or that extra potion will help you live enough to kill the boss. And of course, if your limit breakers are up, continue to use your limit breakers so that, you know, you continue on with the fight and just keep on mustering through. Never just, you know, quit and be like, okay, wipe, we're not gonna do this, we have to do it perfectly, because I mean, that's part of gameplay. Sometimes it's messy, But if you complete it or do it with 2 people or 3 people, then that's a sense of accomplishment in itself. So that is about it for Brayflox Longstop's dungeon. It's pretty much straightforward. There's only a few mechanics that you have to watch out for according to the bosses. And of course, if you want those extra coffers, you want to save those goblins. Remember to just keep at it, never give up, and just be kind and friendly. Keep in mind that people are new to playing these games all the time, and just try not to be an elitist douche, okay? I'm just kidding, but not really, in a way, I guess. Okay, I'm gonna go now. Bye, guys! If you haven't seen the Tamtara Deepcroft's dungeon video yet, here's a link to that in the middle of the screen. Also, to stay updated with the latest Final Fantasy Realm Reborn videos that I post onto this channel, go ahead and click that subscribe button on top, and you can also find me on other forms of social media such as Twitter and Facebook.